Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we have the patch notes for update 4.5 featuring the X-Men, Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Sentinels. Now, these are the maintenance notices that are going to pop up when you first log into the game. Before we get into the actual details of the update, I want to let you guys know that the maintenance beginning in 10 hours and 24 minutes, approximately 5 hours into the maintenance. It's a 7-hour maintenance, 5 hours into the maintenance, or 2 hours before the maintenance is over, I will be live on twitch.tv/Sentinel. So many of you, almost 2,000 of you showed up yesterday for the Facebook live stream kind of reaction and watching party. That was amazing, outstanding, and I invite you all back for the update. We're gonna go live, do everything, do tons of the giant boss mode because that looks amazing, and check out all the new characters and uniforms, etc. So that's my little pitch there. That's my little self-promotion thing. Let's jump into the actual patch notes to see what all of the kind of positive and negative buzz is about. So we got the new update. We're gonna just slide right through to the characters. I don't want to give you too much detail on the actual characters because there's more to it than just the text. I'll just give you a kind of early reaction that I have and what I think, or who I think we could kind of relate some of these character abilities to. So Gambit is available through the X-Gene sub, the X-Gene subscription, which means that he's like someone along the lines of Weapon Hex or Magic. The Ignore Dodge leadership is pretty good, and he honestly reminds me of Psylocke in a lot of ways. He's got a lot of ways to buff his own damage, guaranteed crit rate. He's also got crit damage, and then he's got chain hit. And then he also has some V-pad stuff so he can move around the battlefield, which helps with positioning. But especially on his 5th skill, you see there a lot of the buffs that he has, a lot of the debuffs to the enemies, and a lot of his self-buffs just stack up. And so he's got chance to penetrate, he's got tons of self-buffs with all attack and crit rate and all speed. So it'll be interesting to see how Gambit plays. Originally, I thought Gambit looked worse in the footage that I saw from the live stream, but his skills do make him sound like the better overall character out of the two between Nightcrawler and Gambit. Nightcrawler is available through the Premium Hero Chest, which they do tend to give away from time to time, but of course it's a huge pool of characters, so it's going to be difficult to pull Nightcrawler out of that list of characters, but it's possible. Also the X-Gene selectors and the processor. So he's available in the same way that X-23 is available. If you go to the processor in the Shield Lab and you roll for X-Gene bios, you'll be able to hopefully pull some Nightcrawler bios. This, of course, makes the character very tedious to get in the sense that it's a very slow grind, but it is available for free-to-play players, and it is something that you can build up because the pool of characters in this list is still very small. So, I mean, the chances of getting X-23 at least once every 10 pulls is almost guaranteed, and I'll show you guys what it looks like right now. There I got 1 bio, 2, okay, I got super lucky, I got 4. That's not going to happen every time, but you can imagine at least one of those bios would end up being Nightcrawler post-update. And he's also available through the X-Gene selectors, which if you purchase them in the shop, they look very similar to the bio selectors like this, and he would show up on this list presumably along with all of these characters, as far as I've understood it. Nightcrawler, on the other hand, I don't really have anyone to compare him to. He seems possibly like a better version of Clea with kind of almost permanent summons because every single one of his skills will trigger his summons, and he has buffs to his summons, and he also has some pretty good self-buffs. But with all those iframes, we have to really see if the damage is good, because if the damage is not good, we know most of the game modes are timed, and so it really doesn't matter how many iframes he has. If the damage is not there, he won't be able to finish things on his own, and he'll kind of be, you know, a nice looking Barbie, a fun playing Barbie, but not an effective Barbie. And then we have Sentinel, and I think from the text, Sentinel seems to be the most powerful new character, and he is from the bio subscription. So he's like he's similar to characters like Killmonger or Agent Venom, in the sense that you have to purchase that bio subscription to get him, and he's a supervillain and he's universal. He's got a he's got basically the best leadership in the game, like Angel does, and he's got a lot of anti-mutant and anti-elemental effects. So not effects, but defenses, which makes it very interesting. 70% chance to become immune to the greatest element damage received. That's a very specific piece of text. That means if he's fighting Jean Grey and Luna Snow, and Luna Snow's doing more damage, he'll suddenly have a 70% chance for 6 seconds to be immune to cold damage. So that's pretty savage. Of course, damage penetration will overwrite that. We know that is the case for a lot of characters. So the immunity doesn't really make him a hard counter just yet to the elemental mutants, but it does make him a lot better than most other characters. So it'll be very interesting to see, and I am very interested in his skill set because there's new stuff going on. There's clones that copy your skills, which is super cool, and he just looks cool because he's a Sentinel. Now, I think the big issue for a lot of players right now is the fact that all 3 of the characters are in some way non-free-to-play friendly. Now, I will say that while it is a little bit frustrating to see, you know, a decent portion of the community upset that the characters are not available strictly free to play through bio selectors or, you know, any kind of grindable content, it is something that I think is not warranting as much negative press as possible. And part of the reason why I think so is because, well, I don't really care about it that much, and I don't think you should either. The game now has 169 characters. It's going to have 172 characters after this update. And yes, while these 3 characters, well, technically 2 of them, are only available if you spend real money. Again, you can get Nightcrawler the same way you can get X-23, so he's not free-to-play friendly. The other 169 characters you have to consider as well. And so if you take the wider picture, and if you look up all of the X-Gene and all of the bio subscription characters, and you calculate how, like, the percentage of them versus all of the free characters, you obviously get a much better impression and a much better picture of what is actually going on. And, you know, we kind of paid for this, or we kind of accepted this when in the early updates, when the game first came out, all of the characters were free. Now, I'm not saying that we should just accept whatever is going on, and if you're upset, you have the right to be upset, but just try to look at it through a different lens. My biggest gripe, my biggest complaint about Marvel Future Fight is not that the characters are free or not free. My biggest complaint, say it with me now, is that there's not enough game modes to play these characters in. So in my opinion, even if I was a free-to-play player who likes Gambit or loves Gambit or Nightcrawler, I have to kind of be happy in this case, because if there is a new game mode, if Giant Boss is really fun, and if Giant Boss is challenging, I just got a new game mode where I can use all of my other characters in. So yeah, these 3 characters, I can't get them, but I now have a new place to play with all of my other new Barbies, or my old Barbies, that I didn't have before. So ask yourself this question. Just go with the same analogy. I know it sounds stupid, but seriously, if you had over 150 Barbies and the store, okay, that used to give you free Barbies said, hey, person, insert your name, we got 3 new Barbies. They look really nice. You're going to like them, but you got to pay for all 3 of them. We also have this new Barbie Playhouse. We're going to give you that for free. Would you really be so upset? No, because if you wanted those new Barbies, you'd buy them. If you didn't, you just go to that new playset. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case for every single update, and of course, if the Giant Boss game mode is terrible, then that kind of destroys part of my argument, but that is basically the crux of it. Are you really upset that you can't get these new characters because you just want to collect them for the sake of collecting them, or are you genuinely upset because they're just not free? Because you have now a new game mode where you can use all of these other characters. You know, I would say at least 100 of them are free to play. So 100 characters to use in a game mode versus 3 characters that you can't get without paying for money. Additionally, what I also want to point out is that the X-Gene sub is extremely thin right now. And again, that's not necessarily a reason to keep pumping out characters, but seriously, it's a very difficult thing for them to sell to people when there are so few characters in it. So they have to add new characters to it. And it's kind of in the same way that the bio subscription started out very small. There was just one character, there was just 2 characters, and then they slowly added more. And now it seems like a reasonable purchase for most players if they want to get at least 2 or 3 of the characters on the list. We still recommend mega rank up tickets and stuff like that, but it's just kind of what makes sense. So I think there's some logic to be found there. I'm not saying that it's the best possible situation. No, I'm not. Is there a kind of a better compromise for free-to-play players or low-spending players and everyone else? Maybe. Should we possibly be getting X-Gene selectors somewhere in the game at some point, some farmable way? Yeah, I think we should, even if it's just 5 or 10 X-Gene selectors, not like the 200 plus that we get every week in bio selectors from Shadowland. But again, that's kind of for a different topic. It's for a different time. The 4 new uniforms, we've already seen them from the Facebook live stream. There's not a lot to gather from this. The only big news is that Angel is still a hero, so he won't be applicable for the Speed Villain ABX day, but it's going to be interesting to see how everything else pans out. All the other uniforms are 1050, but his is 750, so you kind of have to budget yourself just under 4,000 crystals to be able to afford all of this. And then we have the level 70 for these 7 new characters. Pretty straightforward stuff. Magneto's tier 3 skill, I have to say, does remind me a lot of Deadpool's tier 3 skill. Lots of hits, really big defense down. Up to 80% all defense down, which Deadpool's is 100%. So I do see some similarities there. We're going to have to see if the damage is the same, but that could make Magneto very, very good for World Boss Ultimate type gameplay. And because he now, with his new uniform, deals more damage to machine types, we're going to need to watch out and see how good Magneto is, not only in the new Giant Boss game mode, but also to counter Sentinels if they get out of hand and if they're too strong as a hard counter to some of the elemental characters like Jean Grey that we've gotten used to seeing. New game mode, Giant Boss Raid. You guys know I'm all about the game modes. I get a big hard on for this kind of stuff, so I'm very excited. You have to have tier 2 level 60 characters, so they're setting the bar pretty high. You can't use, if I'm understanding this correctly, you can't use tier 1 characters, so that's great. It means it's probably more difficult than the majority of game modes that we have in Marvel Future Fight, so I'm happy about that. You can play with your friends by opening a public lobby and just waiting for them to join and kicking out people who don't join or who join that you don't want. You can invite your alliance members. I would like to see a global invite button. I'm not sure how difficult that would be, but or at least a friends list invite button. I mean, why do we have 50 friends if all we can do with them is check out their roster and send them assemble points? So they still have some work to do with this. I'm not saying it's perfect for the invite system, but definitely more social gameplay and more challenging content and giant bosses. That's basically everything we've been asking for in a new game mode. So if this is a good game mode, this is a 10 out of 10 game mode for me. If it's good, if it's challenging, like I said. Also, some really good extra pointers to notice is that the list of characters that buff the reward, so in this case you can see here we have Caecilius, Wolverine, Red Hulk, Elektra, and Angela. They will reset every time you complete Giant Boss. So that's fantastic because that encourages you, like I was saying about the Barbies, to kind of work out or develop your entire roster, because if you use those characters 3 out of 5 and you have them built up and you could beat Giant Boss and you can go back and keep doing that, you're going to get so many additional rewards. So it rewards people who have built up their entire roster. You can also use boost points to boost your rewards. That's just kind of for the uber whales, whatever. But I love the fact that the characters reset every time, because that is a huge incentive to make your entire roster buff as fuck. So that's great. And then we have a new character building tool, I guess. It's called Type Enhancement, and I speculated on what this might be in the live stream, and I was 100% correct, so that's pretty cool. Basically, you get these kits, these enhancement kits for each of the different types: Combat, Speed, Blast, Universal. You get them from Giant Boss, and then you use them to improve your character's damage and damage reduction against the favored type. So basically what this system is doing is it's creating a larger imbalance between the different types. So right now in Marvel Future Fight, if you're a speed type, you should do a lot more damage to blast types, and blast types should not be able to kill you. But that's not the case. Blast types regularly one-shot speed types regularly one-shot combat types regularly one-shot blast types. It just doesn't work. The whole type system is kind of a shit show. This system looks like it intends to fix that. Now, it is a system that's being fixed on an individual character level, so they are putting the burden on us, which kind of sucks. But it does give us something extra to grind for those, uber veteran players who have everything completed on every single character. Yeah, you kind of just got to hit the reset button and got to do this 170 times now. Good luck with that. The only negative to this system here, where you deal more damage to the type that you're good against and you get less damage from them, the only negative is the fact that it's random. So there isn't a 100% guaranteed chance that when you use these resources, you will upgrade it. There's only 6 levels to upgrade, 0 up to 6. But the fact that you can fail, like Uru enhancement, like ISO 8 rolling, like obelisk rerolling, like card rerolling, means that a lot of people are going to be frustrated as hell when they farm up a week's worth of enhancement kit stuff, hologram cubes, and then they hit enhance, and then the game's like, sorry, try again next time. So we're going to have to see just how good or bad the stats are, or the kind of the rates of success are. I imagine it's going to be something like Uru enhancement, which is good and bad. It'll make it quite easy to get up to stage 3 or stage 4, but then it'll make getting to stage 6 hell, and only doable, feasible for your top 10% of your roster, the really beloved characters that you have to max out completely. And it might add to your combat score as well. So for those of you gunning for #1 spots, for characters like Gamora, etc., you're gonna have to watch out for that. We got a new gold pack in the shop for dire situations. Now, I was assuming that Netmarble was going to try and take advantage of people who were desperate, but to be honest, this is a decent deal. Now, I say decent because I know that it costs more than 500 gold or energy in investments in the game to generate 2 million gold. So 500 for 2 million once a day, it doesn't seem like they're trying to pick your pocket. They could have definitely made this a lot worse. Yeah, if they made it worse, people would ignore it. But this is a decent deal for those mega whales who are trying to catch up to me and other players who started just a couple months ago and who want to really ramp up their development. So I think it's decent. I think they could add a few more things like this to kind of prop up those players who run out of energy or something like that and just need an extra daily boost to keep their grind and keep their gameplay alive, so they don't have to kind of put the game down and come back later. And then they have a whole whack of other gameplay improvements. I don't want to harp on these too long, but they have changed around the order of the uniforms as they appear. We can now rewatch the tier 3 animations for every uniform that we have, which is great. We can now see the rewards of the booty boxes, which is also great. We can see additional information on characters that we already own when we're using selectors for them, which is also really great. And then they changed things about the co-op missions. They changed the co-op, one of the co-op missions where instead of using the co-op skill 3 times, you only have to use it once, which is huge. There's a couple of text that's actually being cut off right here, but I can just let you guys know because I've already read it. They also changed an interaction, a negative interaction that certain characters were having with their heals and the heals from an obelisk. So this most infamously impacted characters like Hulk and Wolverine, where if you equipped an obelisk that had healing, like let's say, I don't know, a CTP of refinement, you would only get one of the heals, and it would disable or it would interfere with the native heal of the character, i.e. Hulk's, not Gamma Overload, his enraged heal passive. They've changed that. Hopefully they fixed it completely. So that's a really big deal, along with the co-op changes to alleviate a lot of frustration from players. So I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy with the majority of this update. New game mode, new ways to develop our existing roster, and a whole bunch of changes to existing content, not changes, but quality of life additions that make them a lot more tolerable or even more fun to play. Now, we do have the character issue to resolve, so I'll let you guys yell at me in the comments and we'll try to talk it out, hug it out. I'll see you guys on Twitch now or later, because I'm going to go live in a couple hours to play some Spider-Man Heist DLC. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my videos. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.